Hey, what's up, tubers? It's Tony, and I'm back right quick to make another short video. I recently made a video showing you the location of and how to replace your crankshaft position sensor on a Chevrolet Aveo. Unfortunately, in that video, I just didn't have time to show you how to reinstall it. And since then, a number of people have reached out to me stating that they're having trouble reinstalling that crankshaft position sensor back into its place. So I'm going to show you that today and give you a couple tips so that you know how to get it back in. It's pretty easy. It's just a tedious process, guys. Right quick. For those of you who wanted to know where your camshaft position sensors are, they're located on the driver's side of the motor. So find your ignition coil, okay? Here is your fuse panel. Just come right in here. And there's camshaft sensor number 1. This is your exhaust camshaft sensor. And just go over to the right, and that's your intake camshaft sensor. So again, just follow where you put your fluid in for the brake fluid, come down, and there is your intake sensor right there. Come over to the left, and there is your exhaust sensor. Guys, you just pluck these little gray tabs downward and pull the electrical connector away from the sensor. It's retained by a 10mm bolt. Before you put your new camshaft sensor in, just put some fresh motor oil around the new O-ring before reinserting the new sensor, and then reset your check engine light. So I hope I answered that question for those of you who needed to know where the intake or exhaust camshaft sensor is located on this vehicle. So now let's get to the business of showing you how to install the crankshaft sensor. So hold tight. Okay, tubers, I want to remind everybody that you need to pay special attention to how the crankshaft position sensor came out. There is a housing down in there that this part of the sensor fits into, okay? And how will you know that you have the sensor in its hole correctly? Well, I'm going to show you that, but when this head lines up with where that screw needs to go, and all you see is the tip of this head and not the screw part at the bottom, then you're going to know that you have it lined up correctly. It'll make sense to you when I show you. Also, keep in mind this little protective cover, it's meant to come out and be transferred over to the new crankshaft sensor's wiring harness. Remember, you need a 4mm Allen wrench socket and a short driver. A mirror will definitely help you, along with a flashlight, okay? And when you go to tighten this bolt down, you just need to really just do it until it's nice and snug, okay? And then you can back off. Remember to reset your check engine light in the end. But I'm going to give you a picture of what the housing looks like down in there where the sensor goes, so that you know that it does go back in, okay? It's a tedious process, guys, but you can do it. And basically, I just grab the sensor and I sort of take my hand and put it down in there until it's seated correctly. And again, you're going to know it's seated when you look at it. If you see just this bolt head, then you know you have it seated correctly. If you see this bolt head and then the place where the bottom of the screw screws into, then you don't have the sensor seated correctly. So let me show you what the bore where this sensor goes into looks like. Okay, guys, I'm going to try my best to show you what's down in that hole so you have an idea of what you're dealing with, okay? So you see down in that hole, you know that there's a place for this part of the sensor to go back into, okay? You just have to take your hands put it down in there and feel and keep checking until you have it seated correctly. And see the place where the bolt goes. When you are done and believe you have the sensor seated correctly, as long as you see the tip of this head here only and not the tip where it screws into, then you have it lined up correctly. So hold tight. I'm gonna put it back into its housing, and I don't have 3 hands. Also, guys, my suggestion to you is to put the sensor's electrical connector back on that housing, and that way it's out of your way, and then you could just fool with the sensor part. Okay, tubers, again, this is a tedious process and you'll just have to take your time. All I did was sort of felt my way with my hand in the sensor into its housing. It will not always go in immediately, so be prepared to have patience. So now when I show you the sensor's retaining bolt, you will only see the head of the bolt and not the part where it screws into. So let me see if I can get you a picture of that. So that means that the sensor is now lined up correctly, and then all you need to do is take your 4mm Allen wrench socket and a short driver and preferably a mirror and go in and bolt that bolt down until it's snug. You don't need to go overboard with it. Just bolt it down until it's nice and snug. So I'm gonna work on that to show you that this can be done. Again, I use a mirror to guide my Allen wrench head over that bolt. So tubers, basically as you see, I had to just feel my way over that 4mm Allen wrench bolt with my socket and short driver, and then once you get it in, you can go ahead and tighten it up with your ratchet. And come on, for the most part, that is okay. For the most part, that's how you're going to approach that bolt to get it back in. And again, remember, you will know that it's lined up when you can only see the head of the, oh, come on, get out of the way. When you can only see the head, out of the way. When you can only see the head of the 4mm bolt, not what it screws into. So when you stick that sensor down in there, if it looks like this, then you know you have it lined up correctly. And then you can go ahead, take a mirror and a flashlight and bolt it down. And as you'll see, it's in there. It's not coming back out. And then you can go ahead and put your protective cover back on. Okay. And for the most part, you'll be done. Okay. Just make sure you put this piece back in correctly to protect it. And that's how you get it back in there, guys. Okay. So I'm going to show you this one more time. Alright guys, an extremely tedious process, but take your time and have fun with it.